Hi, YouTube. I'm coming to you today because in our small community, there's a young man who took his life a few days ago. And the reason I'm coming on here is because lots of times we have questions, those of us who are left behind, so to speak. We have questions like, why? What could I have said? I should have did this. I should have done that. I wished I was there. I wished he would have talked to me. I wish she would have done this. I wish she would have done that. First, I'm going to tell you that I know what it's like to try to take your own life. In 1995, I tried to take my life. I was convinced at the time that my children's life would be way, way better if I wasn't in it. I would ruin them. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not strong enough. I will ruin them. And he could find somebody who's better, prettier, smarter, more organized, and would raise them better than I could. These are the fiery darts that the enemy throws our direction when we're down and out. Stress of life causes us to become down and out. But the enemy will throw the fiery darts, which the Bible tells us to put on the armor of God to protect us from the fiery darts, the helmet to protect us from the fiery darts. Well, the fiery darts are those negative, nasty thoughts that the enemy wants to fill our heads with and make us think that we're not worthy, that we're not good enough. So I thought I wasn't good enough for them. I would not be the one to ruin my kids. So I took a handful of 14 pills, put them in my mouth, and I remember thinking, this is the crossroad. Everything changes if I swallow these. I don't know what I should do. And I heard really loud, just do it. And so I did. My husband took me to the emergency room, needless to say. And of course, the emergency room doctor was a very, very handsome, blonde, wavy-haired guy with the most beautiful blue eyes. Great. The reason this was a problem is, why did I have to have such a good-looking doctor who's going to give me charcoal to make me vomit, 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 vomit? I mean, I'm married, but, it's still embarrassing. So anyways, they gave me the charcoal. I vomited my insides out, it seems like. And he asked me if I wanted my husband to come in, and I said no. He said, are you afraid for your life? I said, no. He says, why don't you want your husband to come in? I said, because I failed at this too. I couldn't even do this right. So he asked if he could sit down, and I said, sure. So he asked what brought me there, so I told him all my woes and sorrows and stuff, and he said, so you have 2 kids? I said, yeah, at the time I did. And he said, one was 5, one was 18 months, and he said, do they like to color? I said, yeah, my daughter loves to color. She was the 5-year-old. And I said, whatever sister does, brother wants to do. Doesn't matter what it is. And he says, does she color inside the lines? I said, she tries to. She's not very good at it. I mean, she's only 5, so, but she's trying to. She's got the idea now. She's got the concept where she wants to color inside the lines, but she doesn't always do it. And he says, what about the 18-month-old? I said, oh, he just scribbles all over the page. I mean, it's all over the place. There's no rhyme or reason to his coloring at that time. And he goes, oh. He says, what do you do with the pictures when they're done? I said, I put them on my refrigerator. And he said, even the 18-month-olds? I said, well, of course I do. And he said, but you said he does not color inside the lines. I said, no, he doesn't, but he colored it for me. So I put it on the refrigerator to show them both how proud I am of him. And he goes, oh, okay. He says, humans like to draw lines in the picture of your life. Your parents do. They want you to act this way. They want you to do that. So those are the lines in the picture of your life that they draw. Your employer wants you to do this or wants you to do that. So those are the lines that they draw. Your friends want you to do things this way or do things that way. And those are the lines that they draw. Friends, family, sisters, relatives, neighbors, whatever it is. Humans like to draw the lines in each other's pictures of their lives that they want you to color within. But don't you think that if you color the picture of your life for God, don't you think your life would be a masterpiece? I said, well, I guess so. He said, if you color the picture of your life for God, it doesn't matter if you color outside the lines that your husband drew. It doesn't matter if you colored outside the lines that your friends drew or your parents drew. If you're coloring your life, the picture of your life for God, your life will be a masterpiece. And from where I'm standing, your life is a masterpiece. And that's all I remember of that visit. So I went home, and that really made a huge impact in my life and my thinking and my feelings. And so I went back to the hospital 2 weeks later because I wanted to thank him for how he helped me, not only physically but mentally. So I went up to the window and I told her my name, and I said, you guys had a doctor here. He said that you guys called him Doogie Howser because he looked so young, like that Doogie Howser TV show where the 16-year-old became a doctor. He said you guys dubbed him Doogie Howser because he looks so young. And she says, no. I said, he's really good looking, blonde, wavy hair, beautiful blue eyes. And she says, honey, if we had any kind of good looking doctor here, I'd know about it because I've been here for 27 years. I said, so you don't? She says, nope, we don't. So she says, when were you here? So I told her it was the day after Thanksgiving in 1995. And so she checked the date. She says, I'm sorry, but there is absolutely no record of you being here. And so she checked every day for a week before and every day for a week after to see if there was any record of me being there, and there was none. So that's my story about my suicide attempt and how God intervened. Now, I saw the woman who is the mother of this young man's twins. And naturally, and it's natural for us to say, if I'd have just said this, or if I'd have just did that, if I'd have just known what to do, then maybe this wouldn't have happened. But I told her in Psalms 139:16, which is the verse that helped carry me through the death of my own daughter in 2000, which, by the way, her birthday is tomorrow. She would have been 19 years old. But during her death, what carried me through was Psalms 139:16, and it says, every day of your life is recorded before you take your first breath. That means God knew every day, every moment of my baby's life and the day that she would come home. Just like this young man, even though the way he went is probably not the way we would want anybody to go, but God knew the day and hour that this young man was going to go home. And if God needed him to be here still, if he had more work for this young man, he would have intervened, just like he did with me. So because there was no intervention, I'm hoping that they do not blame God, but that they understand that this young man's time was done. He was finished. He completed his task. And that God allowed him to come home. So, sorry, there's a car going by. So, the message I wanted to get out is, one, God knows our time to exit this world. It's not our fault who are left behind. It's not our fault because we didn't say the right thing or do the right thing. Because The right thing comes from God, not us. God, through the Holy Spirit, will press upon our hearts and give us the wisdom and give us the words and give us the knowledge of what to say and what to do, if it is God's will. The other thing is, sorry. The other thing is, I remember when I attempted, someone had told my husband, how could she do this to her kids? How could she do that? How selfish can she be? The truth of the matter is, it's not necessarily selfishness. A lot of times the enemy will lie to us and tell us that their lives would be better if we're not in it. So I didn't do that to my kids. I did that for my kids. So this young man, I don't know the circumstances as to why he did it, but I can tell you from experience that the enemy was throwing all kinds of fiery darts at him and lying to him, and probably told him that everyone involved would be better off if he wasn't around. Their lives would be easier, their lives would be better. We don't know that at the time. We are so broken and so heartbroken that we don't understand that at the time. I only know this because of later healing. So try not to be too harsh on those who have family members that took their lives. They weren't being selfish. They are not in the right mind. If the enemy is attacking their mind and spewing them with lies, they are not in their right mind. And if God did not intervene like he did with me, that means their job is complete. So the next step would be to cry out to God for healing, for peace, and to experience the love of God, so that we're not tempted to let our guard down and let the enemy shoot his fiery darts at us and take us too. This specific message is for this young man's brothers. God has a purpose for you, and God has chosen you because he deemed you strong enough. You are his warrior, and he will allow you to use this experience to reach others. You could probably reach others that nobody else can. And in order for you to be used appropriately to reach others for Christ, you need to experience things. So instead of getting angry with God, start praising God through this storm. Praise him every time you start getting down and out. I know you have a purpose, Lord. I don't understand why. I need your peace. I need your love. And just surrender to Jesus. Well, I guess that's all I can think of to say right at the moment. So if you have someone who has committed suicide or someone who's contemplating it, first, number one thing to do is pray for them. If they've already committed suicide, pray for their family. Do not play the blame game towards somebody else or towards yourself. You are not to blame. They are not to blame. The enemy, Satan, is to blame. And God will help you and lead you through this and comfort you. Just trust in him. I guarantee you it works. I'm living proof of it. My heart, my love, my prayers go out to this young man's family.